What's going on, guys? It's John here from Untitled Hockey to talk about Nikita Gusev and 6 potential trade destinations for him. So if you are here, please subscribe to the channel, drop a like, comment your thoughts below. I'm going to talk about Gusev and the Golden Knights because the Golden Knights are $3 million over the cap right now. They can't fit a guy like Nikita Gusev into their cap. And a guy like Gusev, he played for St. Petersburg in the KHL last year, 82 points in 62 games. He's going to look for $4 million plus on his new contract. He is an RFA. So I'm going to talk about the teams that he could potentially be traded to. So let's get right into it. The New Jersey Devils. The Devils have revamped their roster. Jack Hughes, PK Subban, Wayne Simmons. They've got a lot of players to potentially put them over the top and get them into the playoffs. The Devils still could use some more forwards. Could still use some more scoring forwards. Yes, they have even other guys like Bratt or a guy like Kyle Palmieri. So they have probably their top 6, but a guy like Gusev could fit on the third line, maybe beside a guy like Travis Zajac, a vet who could help a guy like Gusev into the North American game. A player I could see going the other way is a guy like Pavel Zacha. He really hasn't found his way with the Devils. He's still young. I think he's about 22 years old, and he's an RFA. So I could see the Golden Knights, if he was traded to Vegas, getting a smaller term deal, maybe 1 or 2 million, maybe even like 1 million, and that would fit better into the Golden Knights cap. I really don't know if the Golden Knights just want picks back. Obviously, with their cap situation, they will have to move other players as well, or another player as well in general. So maybe they just want picks back for Gusev, and that might be a different situation for them. Let's move on to the Ottawa Senators. The Senators have made many moves so far, including the trade with the Toronto Maple Leafs for Zaitsev and Connor Brown, and then signings like Tyler Ennis and Ron Hainsey, and they have younger players coming up. So I do believe they could use a guy like Gusev, who just rocked the KHL with 82 points. He can score, but he can also make assists. Over 60 assists. He knows how to pass. He can set up players like maybe a Brady Tkachuk. Well, Matthew Tkachuk if he was moved as well. But Brady Tkachuk is a guy on the under Senators they have a lot of faith in. And I just see a guy like Gusev could come into the top 6 for Ottawa and get a lot of points. Let's move on to the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks, it's an interesting one. They don't have a lot of cap space. I think about $7 million of cap space, and they still have to sign Brock Besser. So they would have to make other moves. I see them potentially moving a guy like Sutter, but I could also see them moving that last year of the Chris Tanev contract. 4.5, Chris Tanev still has some value, and I really don't see him fitting in the top 4 for the Canucks this upcoming year, so I could see them moving Tanev. I'm not saying he'd be moved to the Golden Knights. I think this kind of trade, it'd be maybe a guy like Virtanen attached to a pick, possibly going to the Golden Knights in exchange for Nikita Gusev, but I really see a potential trade there, and for the Vancouver Canucks, yes, maybe JT Miller does work on that top line with Pettersson and Besser, but if you acquire a guy like Gusev, he could work on that top line as well. Let's move on to the Montreal Canadiens. So the Canadiens missed out on Sebastian Aho. Will they make another offer sheet, or will they go through free agency and acquire a UFA as a new winger, maybe a guy like Ryan Dzingel, or do they acquire Nikita Gusev from the Golden Knights? I could see this being a draft pick trade, maybe a second-round pick going to the Golden Knights and a third or something like that. I obviously don't think the Montreal Canadiens would lose a first in this deal. The Golden Knights don't have a lot of leverage here. Yes, Gusev has a lot of skill. He has a lot of potential, a bright future potentially, and the numbers speak for itself in the KHL. But I don't think the Montreal Canadiens or any other team would give up a first-round pick in this type of deal. So maybe a second, a third, maybe a B-level prospect. But I believe that the Montreal Canadiens, after missing out on a guy like Aho, is going to see a guy like Nikita Gusev, and maybe a $3 or $4 million deal is in the works there. Let's move on to the Edmonton Oilers. Look, we got 2 teams left. The Edmonton Oilers, they still got to move some contracts, whether it's a Manning or a guy like Lucic or a guy like Sam Gagner. But a guy like Nikita Gusev could step right into that top 4. We're talking about McDavid. We're talking about Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins. So Gusev, I feel like could drop 50, 60 points if he's in the right situation. And being in the right situation would maybe being beside a guy like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl if that's how you start out the year. So I really like this fit, especially for the Oilers who need those top 6, top 9 forwards. And the Oilers, and I think the Oilers are going to want to focus on their forward group over the defense, despite that being an issue as well, and goaltending being a question mark still, even though you're bringing in a guy like Mike Smith. Let's move on to the final team. Again, this is in no specific order, the Columbus Blue Jackets. So the Blue Jackets, you're losing Duchesne in free agency, you're losing Panarin in free agency, Dzingel. You want to bring some guys back in. You made a decent deal. I think you might have overpaid a little bit on Gustav Nyquist, but you brought him in. He could provide you 50, 60 points, but you need some other producers. You need some other producers in that top nine. Gusev could be that fit. I wonder if they would have a trade maybe for Nudavara or maybe a younger player. Marcus Nudavara's on a good contract, $2.7 million each year for 3 years. I don't know if they want to move a guy like that, maybe a Scott Harrington. But Gusev does have some value. Despite the little leverage that the Golden Knights have, he does provide value. And maybe a guy like Nudavara could go to the Golden Knights because the Golden Knights right now, I think, only have 4 or 5 NHL-ready defense for the upcoming year. And I just want to talk about the Edmonton Oilers before I end this video. Puljujarvi's a name I would look out for. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you are here, again, please subscribe to the channel, drop a like, comment your thoughts on where you think Gusev could end up. Again, I don't see this resolving itself with the Golden Knights. I do think this ends in a trade. Well, thank you guys. This was John from Hot Take Hockey. Have a good one. Peace out.